Hey, Las Vegas, welcome back to Realty Check with Trish Williams and
Tiana Carroll.
Tiana Carroll.
Here we are.
Here we
another
are.
week.
Yes,
And
another week, another month,
another year, right?
Another year, yep.
So we said that we were going to do our market report this week, and we're going to talk about all of the numbers that happened not only in December of 2022, and we'll just sort of do a quick overview of the entire year with our numbers.
Absolutely. This is your monthly market update where we tell you the statistics of what has just happened, where we're at now, what the forecast is looking like.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking lots of numbers today, of course. So if you tune into these shows every month, you hear lots of numbers, lots of statistics. So be prepared for that. But let's start with the numbers that we talk about every week.
Okay, so the numbers that we talk about every week always tend to be our single family here in Southern Nevada, and then our price reductions, and then what have sold. So if we're going to start with our single family homes available on the home market today in Las Vegas is 5,983 single family homes.
Absolutely. And you know, as we were going over numbers this morning, this was something that we cleared up between ourselves, but we know that it's just so all of you know, I know we've mentioned it before, but we track numbers Las Vegas, Green Valley, North Las Vegas. We're not adding in Boulder City or Pahrump in these numbers. So you might see statistics that have some other numbers that look a little off from ours, and that's because they're including our entire MLS, which includes Boulder City and Pahrump. But we stay...
it's like 3 counties.
Yeah, we stay pretty localized here in Las Vegas. Us as realtors, where, you know, most people that work in Pahrump, though we do sell there.
Yeah.
We do sell in Boulder City occasionally, but it's not our focus market.
Yeah, it's not our stomping ground per se. We go there, we do what we need to do, but there are agents who live and work in those areas.
Right.
So, yeah, but 5,983 single family homes on the market, that's down, right? We saw a little bit of a spike at the beginning of fall, and we were up to about 7,500, I think was the max that we got. Now we're just under 6,000, which puts us roughly about 4 months of inventory on market.
Yeah.
So still pretty balanced. Definitely not a buyer's market in the numbers per se, but in opportunity, it is a buyer's market.
Oh, yes, for sure. And we're seeing, and we'll get into that when we get into our statistics as well, but we're seeing a lot of just sellers either pulling their homes off the market, letting them withdraw, letting them expire, or just not wanting to list right now because there's nothing really
motivating,
enticing, about listing your home right now. So those are the facts. We did see some price reductions, less than 1,000 this week. We got 500. I wish we had 855 price reductions this week happening. Well, last week it was in the 300s.
Yeah.
Right? So this is we're seeing a little more of that. And again, I think that's seasonality.
It is.
Because last month people were in December and they're like, what's the use of dropping our price in December? It's Christmas. Everybody's like, you know, not really, they didn't think they were going to have impact from a price reduction in December. New year, let's get this thing going. Let's get the wheels moving. Price reductions. So I think that's why we're seeing the
New Year's
spike.
resolution for sellers was like, I'm selling this house. Even if I have to slash prices, this is happening.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. Sellers are still making money. I haven't seen one seller, no matter how much price reductions, how much, you know, oh, I didn't want to sell that price, but I'll just go ahead and do it. No matter what we're at, I have not seen one seller walk away negative.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that goes to the statistic that over 40% of the Valley has over 40% equity in their home.
Yeah. So again, it's not, you know, you're not walking away with like a payday doing backflips to the bank, but I think some people should still be doing backflips to the bank because the amount of gain that these sellers are getting at closing is still pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it's been a wild roller coaster ride over the past few years in real estate, and the numbers all show it. Like, and I think that it's still right now. I'm seeing the prices going back to where we were in 21. It's like, oh, well, forget 22 happened. That wild roller coaster was a bunch of stress for no reason,
right?
And we just sort of reset to where we were in December of 21.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's good. That's good. It didn't go all the way back to 2019, which is what I was originally thinking. So I'm glad to see that.
And it did go back to 2012, where all the doomsdayers thought we were going to end up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we're at so far. Sold homes over the last week, 358.
Yes, it's a low number. That is so low.
Yeah, so that's going to be about 1,400 closings.
Which was sort of what December was seeing in the month in total, just over about 1,534.
Yeah.
1,544. So.
And I've during the hardest part of the crash,
Okay.
their closed units was about 1,100 or 1,200.
Yeah.
So we're pretty, that's pretty much the reaction you get in a downturn, is less closings, and I think we're right around that number.
What my crystal ball is showing me, not so much home values coming down, but just the amount of business that is actually happening is a lot slower, less of it going around.
Well, who wants to shop when you're not certain about what's going on? Who wants to buy? Who wants to sell? Who wants to make big life decisions when you don't know what's going on? I mean, there's even some things that have nothing to do with real estate in my personal life where, we're just like, let's wait and see what happens this year. And I feel like a lot of people, everybody, the population is like that, or in that spot, like, let's just see what's happening before making any big moves.
Yeah, fair enough. That's something that we broached on a few different times in this show, just the amount of inventory and sales that are going to happen. And that's what some of the economists were predicting. You sent me, I don't know if they were notes or an article, but I was reading through it, and it was talking about how economists are predicting a 33% drop in the amount of closings that are going to happen.
Right, and they're not predicting price drops.
Right.
That's, I mean, again, depends on what news article you're reading. Some of them are. But what I'm seeing more that's more consistent against with all of the news reports that are coming out, some are saying prices are going to drop. Some are saying rates are going to raise. Some are saying rates are going to drop. It's hard to go through the news, and just with anything, not just real estate too, it's hard to go through the news and find the truth these days because everybody's on one end of something and nothing is really consistent.
Right. Well, it's a big puzzle piece, and as you gain information, you start filling in those puzzle pieces, and you get to see the big overview of what's happening. Then there are some factors, especially for me, that make me think, oh yeah, so we're not going to have a lot of transactions. And it's already changed, right? Like I pulled up the numbers this morning from MLS that have nothing to do with the December numbers that we're talking about, but it was the closed number of units sold. And I was doing a year-over-year comparison being January, and we're looking back into December. Well, what did the whole year do, right?
Right.
And so in 2022, we had 36,483 homes close. That sounds like a lot, right?
Sounds great.
Yeah, but the best year that we've ever had is since we've taken on the Matrix system here in Las Vegas as part of our MLS was in 21, where we had over 51,000 homes sell.
And so that was our best year.
Right, that was our best year. So, and if you kind of go, okay, so that's a big discrepancy, 36,500-ish from 22, from 5,100-ish to 21, and then you look at 20, it was 41,155 homes that sold.
Okay.
So we're
closer last year to 20 than we were the year before.
Right, we're closer last year to 20 than we were the year before, but if they expect that number to go down by a third for 23, then that's going to be quite a discrepancy from our biggest year to what's happening at the end of 23. It'll be great to see how that whole thing plays out. And there's a lot of factors going into it, like the Wells Fargo.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
So one thing that has been consistent across the board that we've been hearing from all news sources is of course, that sales are going to drop.
Right.
And another thing that all news sources have been consistently reporting is layoffs in the industry.
Yep, the mortgage industry.
Yep, in the mortgage industry, and more layoffs coming because Wells Fargo, which I thought this was huge news, and I don't think it got a lot of, it didn't get
It didn't get a lot of
spread
traction
around, yeah.
for what it means for the consumer. There was a lot of traction for what it means with the company.
Right.
So Wells Fargo announced that they were no longer going to be servicing those mortgages. I mean, they're going to be servicing a few, doing loans for their existing companies and for minority communities, but they're not going to be taking on servicing the way they had. So at the end of the crash in 12, a lot of banks, big banks, JP Morgan, B of A, they all pulled out of the mortgage market. Right? And then Wells Fargo stayed in because they were making tons of money.
And at one time, they were the #1 in the mortgage industry.
Up until 19, from like 2012 to 19, they were in the top 3 all the time. And in 19, they were the #1. And it was not only because they were a mortgage servicing too. They buy loans from other mortgage companies who had done the underwriting process, and now they're taking those loans on. They're no longer doing that. And that's big because that means the entire mortgage market is sort of changing.
Yeah, it's just imagine any type of big industry where you sell anything and one of your buyers just backed out and said, we're no longer buying.
Yeah, we're done here.
We're not buying those anymore.
Yeah, so they'll service their customers, their existing customers, and
they're starting a low-income housing program and getting into this, they're putting money into some low-income housing initiative, and they're focusing a lot on that too.
Right, that's where they're going to focus their attention, and they've always sort of had that image of being the bank for the consumer, the people's bank, that kind of image. So I'm pretty sure they're putting that into play to maintain that image, but it's sort of underlining, I don't know, maybe it's me, I'm the conspiracy theory queen when it comes to banks and money and government. But it seems like they are now, instead of really truly being for the people, they are going to be more in the sort of JP Morgan Chase and be a little bit more institutional and working with institutional investors, and that money is going to be available because that's going to help their bottom line, right?
Right.
Because I mean, if we're being honest, Wells Fargo's been all over the road since 17 when they got busted for those fake accounts and they got all those fines. And then in 19, they were at the top of the mortgage game. And now they're like, just kidding, we're not going to service those because they can't grow their bottom line with all the constraints that they have from that 17 issue. So,
well, besides that in 17, besides the bad things they did have around 16, 17, they had a program, a down payment assistance program. I can't remember all of the ins and outs of it, but I do know that I had clients that used it, a couple clients that had used it, and it was a pretty fair, pretty good program. So I'm hoping with their low-income housing initiative that they're working on, that they're going to bring some more of those programs out for those first-time home buyers.
Right. Well, seeing a big player leave the market and changing the mortgage industry, that's going to, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, my crystal ball, that it's going to be difficult to get loans. Maybe the interest the interest rates will drop and maybe they won't, I can't speak to that. I'm assuming they're going to drop. They
I had
usually
someone
do.
tell me 12% yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, please don't make that happen.
Don't speak that into existence. We're not interested.
Yes.
No, but I think just getting a mortgage in general, because I'm seeing it now in little glimpses with some of my investors where they're like, oh, so that loan value, we're going to have to adjust that a little bit. And they're tightening those reins. And I think because the mortgage industry is changing, I think that is a factor that people haven't started to talk about yet that's going to be affecting buyers in the future, because some buyers are barely squeaking in now. They're complaining about interest rates, but at least they can get a loan. It might get to the point where they can't get a loan, and that is definitely going to affect our closings.
Well, that happened during the last crash. Financing was very hard to obtain. There was no first-time homebuyer programs at all. There was no FHA loans available. You had 20% down and a set credit score, and you had to be a very well-qualified buyer to buy. So, that is the banks didn't want to take on anything that had even the slightest glimpse of risk.
Right.
So we could, if the market keeps on going the direction that it's going, we could see that again. I hope that we don't get that deep into it, and hopefully everything starts correcting before that happens. But it most definitely could happen. And another thing is, well, we had an announcement this morning. The president had announced that we are getting inflation is getting under control. Hopefully, the Fed agrees with that. Yeah. And will during their next meeting, that will, they'll look at interest rates a little bit better, and that will affect their adjustments that they've been making.
Right, because I'd like to see them drop down, because the last time I think they did was 0.5. Let's drop down to like 0.25. That sounds great.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, just seeing some of those interest rates go the right direction instead of the wrong is going to definitely, this whole market is, I have to quote this because I heard it in a meeting yesterday, and I was like, yes, that's exactly it, where it says government is interfering with free enterprise now.
Okay, so I saw that on your notes too, and I was like, but there's no context. You're like, that's such a Trish thing. Government's interfering. Get out of our business.
Get out of our business. No. So, I mean, they have created this, okay? So they have created this. The Fed did this purposely to slow down the housing activity, the housing market. The consumers didn't say like, hey, we don't want to buy anymore. The rates actually have made this happen, and it's them adjusting rates to make this happen.
Yeah.
So yes, that is definitely interference.
Well, they've always sort of had that control and the ability to do that, so it's nothing new.
Go away!
Government's affecting my business. Stop.
Yes, go away.
All right, Trish. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked a little bit about Wells Fargo and how that's changing the mortgage market. Some people think that it's going to be lower interest rates by the end of the year, but harder to obtain those loans. So that gets me back into all the conversations that I'm having are like, used to be affordability, like get into the market before it's not affordability, but now get into the market while you can still get a loan, because who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, it is true. When you see big players like Wells Fargo getting out, it's a little concerning.
Yeah.
It's a little concerning, and there could be, there'll always be a point in time where, just the numbers don't make sense for, these big, huge corporations, these big, huge industries that we're so used to seeing that, household names and things change. The mortgage industry could change.
It's risk management. They don't want to service other people's underwritten loans anymore, because if people aren't making those payments, they're stuck with it. So.
Right. Yeah, but people are very well qualified that are getting financing these days. Another thing that I wanted to touch on too is I've been seeing appraisals come in low.
Yeah. I remember a couple meltdowns a few weeks ago.
Last week. Last week was.
Has it only been last week?
Yeah, last week. But no, it's just that's just another indicator. The banks. The appraisals, and we'll do a whole show about this in the future. But the appraisals
I think in June is that one.
Yeah,
the appraisal.
We kept on
it might
moving
be a minute before you see it. No, just kidding.
But the banks, the appraisal is more when you're buying a home and you're getting the appraisal. It's for the bank. It's not for you.
Yeah.
So if the bank is like saying like, hey, we're gonna waive the appraisal, well, that's usually a good indicator that they're not worried about the value of that home not being substantial, because they're putting their money into that. They're having the appraisal because they need verification that if you don't make your payment, they can sell that house.
Right.
That's the reason for the appraisal. I mean, whatever they say is the reason. Come on now. That's the reason.
They're protecting their money, period.
They're protecting their investment. They're making sure that they're putting money into a good thing. So when we're seeing appraisals come in low, that's just another indicator that the banks are really tightening their belts and being a little more conservative on going into anything right now.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's get into our numbers.
Well, we kind of started a little bit with the numbers. For our units sold last month, we did 1,534. So that's down.
And this is the statistic from GLVAR, which includes Boulder City and Pahrump. So if we take those out and we're just Las Vegas, Henderson, North Las Vegas, we're at 1,457. So a little bit. Boulder City and Pahrum's not doing like a huge amount of volume either. So
yeah, I thought we were going to be closer like to the 1,800 to 2,000 mark in our units sold, but we didn't get that cash rush at the end of the year like we usually see?
I think in January, though. I said that last month, right? I think December. No,
It's
but
January,
this time I mean
December,
it.
February.
Yeah, no, this time I mean it. I think in January we're going to see an uptick because there does seem to be a lot more activity right now, and it did roll over into the new year. They weren't December closings. They were,
Right.
there was a lot of December escrows, but they're January closings. So we'll see.
Come
Yeah.
back next month and we'll talk about those numbers.
Yes, we will.
Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you don't forget to come back next month to see those numbers, guys.
Right. Tell your friends. Share us on Facebook. Get us out there. Get us circulating. We love the interactions.
We actually love that very much. So let's do it all the time.
So another thing that I seen that was on when we were going through market numbers is, again, everyone saying like, hey, what about short sales and what about foreclosures?
Yes, there was a whole whopping 24 short sales.
Yes.
Yeah.
And 50 foreclosures. So we are not seeing that big surge in foreclosures and short sales. That is an indicator of a market crash that is like the one that we seen in 2008, 2009. So
Yeah.
we're still, because sellers actually have equity right now, there's no real indicators that that's going to happen, because we would see those numbers raised substantially if that were the case.
Yeah, is our market going to be affected? Yeah. Is it going to be a crash in the way that we've seen before? I don't think so, but there is going to be a variation of some sort of change in our market. I mean, we've already saw it from closing year over year and closings that are happening, and now with changes in the mortgage markets and the possibility of those loans being harder to get, there's going to be less sales.
Right. Absolutely.
So-
and that's the under contract numbers. Those are
let
for
me
this
find
month.
those.
For last month, they were 1,167.
Okay.
It was down 135 from the month before. Under contract, of course, home has to go under contract to turn into a sell. So those are still indicators of those dropping sales numbers that we're seeing.
Yep.
Yeah. So condos and townhouses, we don't really track these much.
Yeah,
but,
I took those out of my notes. I didn't even put them in.
but they are still here. So
Not
let's
that I don't love them. I love
Yeah.
selling condos and townhomes. but-
They're perfect for entry-level buyers,
Yeah.
and even some. I've had a couple lately where they're just like buyers that are downsizing. They're
Right, and snowbirds and
Yeah.
vacation homes. They're great. Let's sell a bunch of those. Call me.
Yeah, you don't have to do maintenance on the yard or anything. I mean, they're definitely good options. But
We
units,
just don't track them.
Yeah, units sold of those are 392. The reason why we don't track them is because they can kind of skew the data a little bit because they're different.
Right.
They're just different. It's when people are talking housing, a lot of people are more focused on single family units. So we do mention, but we just don't focus too much on them. Showing statistics for fun.
Yes, you printed that out. So let me find that page because I don't really...
It looks like this.
I know, it's the boring one. No graphs, no pictures.
No graphs, just
Nothing
a bunch of
interesting
numbers.
for me to look at, just data, blah, blah.
So showing statistics are basically, we have a service where a lot of sellers will use this. A lot of agents will use this, where we
I love
schedule
it.
showings through showing time. So convenient.
I love
because
it.
you don't have to do. When I started in real estate, the MLS would have the sellers' phone numbers, and I'd be like, they want us to call their clients like directly. That's so weird because you always have the
I always
unethical.
thought, well, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You run the risk of unethical agents, which I don't see so many of them.
No, we do have a lot of great people in our
Yeah,
industry.
we have really, really great people in our industry, and I think now that the market has changed and the people who are sort of playing like part-time bartenders / real estate agent, those type of people have been leaving the market because there was a big drop of people not renewing their license January 1st.
And our dues keep going up. So there's that.
Yeah, well, they might come down now that we're doing less business.
Oh, we'll see, or they'll go up to carry the weight. We'll
No,
see
don't
what
jinx
happens.
us.
Yes, no.
Yeah, but you used to have to call and make appointments and schedule. Now it's all automated through the showing time system, and I love it.
Yes, and it's such a benefit to the sellers as well, because they just literally, they can get CC'd on it, so we don't have to like call them and bother them while they're at work or while they're doing their thing.
You have the option of having it sent to them.
Yes, sent to them, and then we're copied on it. Y for yes, N for no. It's a very, very easy system, and their phone number is not shared with anyone. It's just programmed through the system. So
yeah, if
that's
anybody
the
ever
best
gets
part.
a call from me, they sometimes it comes up on their caller ID as Nancy Foreman, because that was one of my original sellers back in the day, and I put her name and number in the MLS, and somehow when they put it into a sales database or whatever, they put my phone number with her name.
Oh, wow.
So still to this day, I was on the phone with somebody else, and they're like, all right, Nancy, I'll call. I was like, wait, did my phone number come up Nancy Foreman again years later?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Apparently
so
that's
that
going to be one of my aliases from now on.
so when you put the seller's name in the MLS, it is tracked through those like data selling services somehow, some way.
Somehow,
So,
some way.
yeah. So anyway, Showing Time is that. So Showing Time does a great job at tracking statistics because it's an automated system. So
Yep.
they're going to track how many showings per listing, all the activity that's happening per listing, and all of that stuff. However, not every seller or every listing is in Showing Time. So
Nope.
I would say that this is probably, just to be realistic, 40 to 50% of the data. So
I would
whatever.
think it'd be a little bit more.
Really?
Because ever since the pandemic, I've been seeing a lot more Showing Time onlys in the MLS and doing more Showing Time activities. It used to be like you'd have to call the agent or you'd have to call the seller, but once the pandemic hit, I really saw a bunch of people jumping on board to Showing Time, which I didn't know why they didn't before, because it's so easy and so nice.
But a lot of non-occupied homes don't use Showing Time at all. They just say key any.
Right.
So I would think that the numbers here probably double to be
Okay.
safe.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I've had to do Showing Time for key any just because the agent wants to be, a good agent wants to be aware of who's coming in and out of their house. I mean, they're going to get notification from when you open the lockbox, but this is just sort of another level of, okay, this is what's happening and keeping an eye on that property.
Right. Yeah. 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 I just think with overall all of the homes, they're probably, I'd say these numbers are doubled because they are very, very small. Total amount of showings that were tracked through Showing Time was 11,793.
Right.
That's a big number.
That's a big number, that there was 11,793 showings that we know about in this automated system.
Correct. Yes. And of that, they're saying it's approximately 1.9 showings per listing. Or actually, I did not realize this over here. Managed listings is 7413. So they are separating
little bit.
the ones that are managed through Showing Time versus not.
Okay.
So that's good. So the managed listing 7413. So 1.9 showings. So they're saying about 2 showings per listing. I'd say if you added in the showings that were not tracked through Showing Time, that's probably another 2 showings per listing, which would average about 1 showing a week. Which they're saying that we're seeing, which
That's
is
pretty good. If I were a seller in this market, I'd be like, 1 showing a week, yay!
I think that, yeah, we used to be in a market where 3 to 5 was the good number.
Yeah.
So 1 showing a week, I think, is pretty much, yeah, where we're at right now. Average days on the market now, there was something I seen about that. That was the article from Review Journal.
Okay, so that was what, 60 days?
Yeah, 60 days. We're
'Cause I read
seeing
that
a
one.
60-day average on the market, which we said earlier in the year that we were going to get to know and get to understand like where we are with that, once we see a couple months, but we didn't know, the average time on the market when all of this first started.
Right.
So now I think that that's a good, realistic, healthy number. I do feel like even with listings that I've had, that those are, if they're priced fairly, they're showing well, and we're getting good feedback, they're selling within 60 days.
Yeah, I don't think 60 days is a scary number. I'd rather have a 60-day sale than a 120-day sale any day of the week.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. 120 days, people start getting, getting
Nervous.
nervous and
Scared,
antsy,
straight, yep.
and yeah, for sure. For sure, but yeah, that I mean, the showing numbers are huge, and it's also an indicator from these showing statistics that buyers are just getting more looky-loo,
Yeah, well, to me, that's what
looking.
I saw. When I saw that number, I was like, oh, that's looky-loo-ish, because if they're doing December and they're doing, say, 12,000 showings, but we're only closing, what do we say, 1,500, 1,600
Yeah.
units, that's a lot of showings that are not getting closed.
Oh, absolutely. We're back to buyers wanting to see 20 homes. I mean, not in one day. But
I'll be like, not at all, ever.
yeah, no,
kidding.
we're in that process of elimination. I'm doing that when I'm talking to a buyer on the first consult and we're setting up that search, and I'm just saying, okay, there's 500 homes here. Let's get this narrowed down a little bit, because we're not going to look at all 500 of them. Let's get this criteria narrowed down a little bit.
But I'm
So,
glad that they have options again.
yes, that is very
Because
nice.
I don't know, that whole 2021 where it was like, here's a house, do you want it? Take it. Okay, here's $20,000 more than I need, $50,000 more than I need to pay. Take it, give me the house. To me, that was so wrong.
Yeah, and then
I don't know, I got a exposed nerve on that one. It just drove me nuts because it was so unfair to buyers, and it was so heavy-sided for sellers to get all this extra cash for no reason. I mean, I wish
Absolutely.
I was one of them. I wish I was a seller who got all this cash. I'd be sitting on piles of money. That'd be great. But it just was not unfair, and I don't like that.
Right, and that's true. And the buyers also at that time were more like the buyer consultations. We'd put in that criteria, and there'd be 5 houses if
Yeah.
we're lucky.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, and it's like, okay, well, maybe something will get listed tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, no, I still have flashbacks and nightmares about just waiting, getting an alert on my phone, and ding, there's a house available that matches this criteria, and then running down there and then being 7th in line, waiting outside to see this house. And you're like, oh, please, we just want this house. How many times were you sitting outside waiting with other agents and other agents' clients just shooting the shit because we're just waiting to get into this house, and there was already 4 offers on it before we pulled up.
Yeah,
So harsh. That was weak, the worst.
yeah. So it is a good thing we're out of that. And in wrapping this up, there's one more thing I wanted to mention as well. 60% of homes that sold last month were vacant.
I love that.
Well, it's an indicator that vacant homes are selling more and faster. And again, it's the people are more picky right now on everything. The vacant home, you have the opportunity to have it set up and always looking good and always smelling good if you give it the right presentation. Vacant, sometimes staged. Staging can do wonders.
Vacant homes have always sold easier than owner occupied, so that's nothing new,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And it is because of livability and accessibility.
Accessibility.
Key any. We can just go there, we can look at it, it's perfect, let us in. But we don't have to schedule through showing time or with a seller or with an agent. So they always sell a bit faster, and they usually, if they're staged, they sell for more money.
Absolutely.
Yay.
And we're going to have a stager on this
I
one.
know, I'm
Another
very
one that does
excited.
occupied homes. So
Dusty.
that's going to be great.
Yeah.
So yes, and they do. Vacant homes do sell quicker and better. And again, if agents are scheduling showings with a buyer and they have 10 homes to show that day, they're going to go for the vacant ones, or the ones that are easier to access first.
Yeah.
Because that just makes their
Well,
scheduling
even from a
easier.
buyer standpoint too, buyers sometimes feel weird, a majority of them, opening cabinet doors and closets when people live there to check out storage space, or saying something in front of them, especially if the owner occupant is home. They don't want to be like, oh, it smells like dog in here, or offend them. So they're usually, when I go out, they piddle around and open every door in a vacant home, and then in an owner occupied home, they're in and out.
Yeah.
Don't want to inconvenience anybody. I feel weird. I don't want to touch their stuff. Let's go. And I'm like, no, touch it. Open the door. Look how much storage this is. This could be a good home for you.
Yeah. So it does, and the numbers are definitely indicating that. Where during the height of the market, they weren't. They were pretty even, but
Yeah.
that was because there wasn't homes available.
Right. Everything was selling at the height of the market. It didn't matter what it was.
You're
You're like, here's a storage shed. We call it a tiny house. And they'll be like, I'll take it. Here's 30 extra grand.
That's true. I had someone tell me that he was living in a remodeled storage shed. And I was like, oh, okay.
Versus the original condition of the storage shed, it was remodeled.
I don't know. It was just like, it was an odd conversation that I had with the seller at one point in time. He was wanting to sell land, and he said he had a remodeled storage shed on the property that he was living in.
All right. Well, listen, we all got to do what we got to do.
Yeah. So, in wrapping up, if you guys are watching, please like, share, and subscribe. Tiana, how do people get a hold of you?
All right. Well, I'm Tiana Carroll. You can see me here every Thursday morning, or you can give me a call or shoot me a text to 702-379-9948. That's my cell phone. It's with me always.
And I'm Trish. You can reach me 702-308-2878. Tune in here, and please like, share, subscribe. Send us listener questions. We really would like to hear your feedback and what you guys want to hear on the show. And that's vegasrealtycheck@gmail.com. And we will see you next week.
Trish, how did they get a hold of you? Did you say it already
I
and I missed
did.
it?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm not going to
You tuned out on me while
I did.
was
Well, I
talking.
was like looking at the screen. I'm like, I really love this backdrop. Okay, like if you're hearing us on iTunes, then you're not seeing it. But we have this beautiful view of Las Vegas behind us, and I never really looked at it until you were giving your contact information. But luckily, I know how to contact you.
Yes, good. Thank you.
Sorry, I spaced on you, girl.
No problem. So yes, we will see you next week on Realty Check next Thursday at 9:30. Thank you for tuning in.
All right, have a great week, you guys. Bye.
Bye.